when you guys have been able to develop two senior marketing directors that are huge powerhouses, and I mean they're just a huge force in the firm. What are the 5 must-haves in developing a power couple?
That's all in Deanne right there. You guys, beautiful.
Thank you. 5, right?
Or just
I'll just throw some out.
Yeah.
Let's see if that makes 5.
Okay.
But I think the biggest thing in developing a power couple is getting both spouses on board. And what I mean by that, I may approach one person, right? Like one person comes on board, and the first thing I do is get in front of the spouse. So if you can, so the 2 people that you had mentioned, so I actually met the women in both those relationships, right?
Okay.
So the first thing I do is I'm like, just like we're always supposed to do, go to the house with the spouse, right? So I go there, but then when I'm there, I'm selling out the spouse on how they're gonna work together. Not necessarily that they need a code number or that they need to be at presentations, but their role in the business. So from day one, I'm getting buy-in on their role in the business. And then I just get them out to whatever they'll allow me to, right? So if they'll allow me to get them to trainings, I get them to trainings. But it's all about selling them out that this is their business together. Regardless if only one person's going out in the field, okay? Or only one person gets licensed, I don't care. They need to know from day one that they're in this together and that this is for their dreams. Because it's getting that buy-in, and then eventually I get the other spouse license, because once they're around long enough, they're like, I do want to play a role. No matter how big or small that role is, and then I'm always communicating with the spouse. They are not the third wheel. They are not like, I won't even allow it out of the mouth. No joke. If that spouse is like, oh, this is their thing, I said, oh, no, it's not. Like, it does not allow, I don't even allow it to come out. They're only doing this because of you and your family. They care that much. And you play a big role in this, whether you know it or not. And every activity that you do can help or hinder. And I let them know that they're the ones that are going to make or break this business. And it's all about them. And so that's a big deal for me, but I'm constantly trying to get them out to obviously every big event, but even trainings. So even if they can come out to trainings once or twice a month, I want them to go to trainings. And people are going to hate me for saying this on here, but I want them to go to training. So you guys know that I don't.
hate you for saying that.
You don't? Oh, okay.
I don't either.
I don't.
But I believe this isn't about like some kind of support group. This is about realizing what my spouse is going through and how can I help. You know, if I want them to be involved, you'll notice that none of our spouses attend that support.
Yeah, what's a better support system besides outside of the spouse actually being right next to
and
their
know
spouse,
what you're going through.
sitting and going through the
Yeah.
actual process.
Like they're there, they see it, they hear the stories, they get sold out on it, they get the buy-in. And so for me, that's so important. And as many as they can come. And I write them letters. You know, in the beginning, if I'm having trouble getting the spouse involved, I write a personal letter to them. But it's more or less just letting them know they're part of the team and how excited I am for their family and why their spouse is going to win. You know, the attributes that person has in them and how that's going to take them to where they want to go and how excited I am for them and their family. And so I really do make it a personal affair, and I get really connected, though, with the family. I know every child's name. I know their freaking dog's name. Like, I don't even know how many play dates I have with their kids. You know, like for me, it's a big deal because it ties us in. It's not just about you're my business partner and I want you to win. We literally are going to become friends.
You commit to their family.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I just heard. Is
So-
you're committed to them and their greatness and their happiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's why they're going to win. It all has to be genuine. You can't be phony baloney here. Like, high five, you're amazing. Like that, like people see through that all day long. And do you even know them well enough to actually state an attribute? Do you even know their reason? And the people that don't, that's why they don't build anything and things don't sustain, because they've never actually created the relationship. And so that's how I've always built a power couple.
I think the taking on personal responsibility for the entirety of what's going on. I think one of the things I've noticed is the successful couples, both spouses, regardless of what their roles are, take on the full responsibility of the entire operation. What that means is you don't point fingers when something goes wrong. Maybe my role was to do this, but if I don't get the job done, Deanne's not going to point her fingers. She's going to take on personal responsibility and max out whatever she's got going on to take on whatever there is there. Now that doesn't happen a lot because I take on personal responsibility too, right? So when you have two people who are taking personal responsibility on for the whole thing, you actually end up working together instead of two people having segregated tasks that hopefully the pieces come together at the end. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, to add on to that, maybe this is number 0.2345, I don't know where we're at yet. But I think another thing that's important is controlling your, and how can I put this? Controlling what you go through mentally in a way that protects your spouse also. So Deanne has her own crap that she's dealing with. And if I have something that goes down and she's kind of having a little bit of a crappy day, and I come over to her yard and I dump my trash on her front yard, what does that do even more? Then we end up getting into a bashing session in a negative way of what we have going on. Now, I think there's different people that need vent to somebody. I just don't know if venting to your spouse is always the best place to vent, because the other thing that we know is also what happens is the spouse wants to protect the other spouse. So when one spouse goes home and starts to vent, that spouse protects. When the reality of it is there's probably tons of positive things that happened. So my job is to not come and talk about the 2 or 3 negative things that I've made super big in my head. It's to kind of fight through the mental side of it first and then come home and report back the good stuff, you know? But then also have times of objectiveness, right? One of the things that we did at certain points in our business is we sat down together and objectively said, this is really where we're at. Like no BS, no emotion. This is what's going on. This is where we're at. And if you can find point A, point B is going to become much more attainable. I think a lot of times people have these goals, these visions. I'm going to do this, you know, like what we were talking about before. I need to get out of debt. I need to increase my income. I need to, save some money, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. That's fine of where you want to be, right? But what are those things that you know you need to do in relation to where you're at? Like where are you exactly at? And then you can figure out exactly what you need to do to get to that point B. So having both couples, right, on the same page with that, fighting together for that, and making them both responsible for that situation.
And I just want to clarify what I consider a power couple. That doesn't mean it's 2 people that are working this business full time. I don't actually view it as that. I view it more along the lines of what he said. They're in this together. Mm-hmm. They're freaking a team together. I get so many questions like, but I just stay at home. And no, you're just as much as the partnership, and you got to figure out what role you play. Mm-hmm. And so because I think together what helped us to grow our business since we got married was getting on the same page. Because that's when it took off. Both of us were in the business before. We both ran our own agencies before, but neither of us were as big as where we are today. And it was actually by combining forces. Mm-hmm. It was combining those strengths that helped us, regardless what role that was. And we both know how to do everything, but that didn't matter. Mm-hmm. We had different strengths. And so in my idea of the power couple is getting the spouse involved, but getting them on the same page. Mm-hmm. And then what role is that? Maybe their role, when I think about one of the couples that you were talking about, his role is to provide for the family so she can build this business. That's part of his, which in essence right now means he's got to maintain his job. Mm-hmm. He's got to bring in the money, and that's his role. And they've set out different things, and he works the business when he can or helps when he can to build that. But it's more along the lines of what are we doing? What are our goals set out for us? And what part are each of us going to play? And being on that same page all the time. And that's what helped us to grow and expand, knowing exactly what we wanted, and then what were we both good at, and playing to our strengths.
Like I meet people sometimes, and like everybody gets to create their life. I'm not judging. To me, I don't understand it from my own perspective of implementation. Now, we both are involved in the business. We both are involved at home, right? But in a situation where, like, you have such a segregation of chores. This one person is only working the business, and this other person is only going to do the home stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then this person who does the business comes home, and there's a struggle here at home, right? It's not right, I'm just saying if there is a struggle at home with doing something, what would this guy not even come in here and help at all? Or is he just going to go to the couch and sit down and watch TV?
Right.
The way I feel about it is if that's the situation and there's a struggle or something needs to be done, this guy should come and do it, not say, hey, listen, that's your job. But vice versa too, right? So how many times is that happening, but this person that's home isn't doing anything over here at all when this guy needs that help or this lady needs that help from the spouse? So how do you cross, whatever you decide to do as far as determining what your roles are, how do you continue to make sure that you cross the line back and forth
Right.
in an active role of support, not just a passive role of support?
Because it's about the overall goal.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, just like he was saying before, like, you know, if he doesn't achieve his goal by the end of the week or by the end of the month, like, he's not on task, or if I'm not on task, it's to the other person to step up. And it is not for each of us to hold each other accountable.
Like how ridiculous it is that the laundry doesn't get done and I can't put a load in. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just nonsense. Or like there's dishes that need to be washed and I don't wash the dishes because my role is to go work. I mean, come on, now my role isn't just to go work, right? But we defined our roles across both sides of
To make
things.
our dreams come true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which actually involves someone else doing my laundry.
Yeah.
Not you, not me.
yeah. You know, and that's another thing that we've actually communicated about and talked about is our roles. In preparation also for this meeting, to be honest, we talked about it. And because, I mean, I think initially we talk about it, and then you kind of stop talking about it, or you stop bringing it back up. And so we did start talking about that again, and what our roles are, and what we need. And then, but we also have decided that's also ever changing. You know, we got kids at the home,
Yep.
so maybe it's a little bit more limited for one spouse to go out, and then, you know, as those things
It'll always
change,
change,
then
yeah.
maybe more involvement in certain areas. But one question, just to go on top of that, so if especially for like Robyn and I, what would you say some examples could be, like interchanging for like her to help more so with the business? Like what would you guys recommend, or what do you guys think?
What do you do right now
Right now,
for the business?
for the business, I don't do much for the business. I think it's more communication of I want to know where we're at with everything.
Mhm.
I think I ask
Accountability, show
him
up
accountability is
do
a
you
big
hold
one.
him? Do you hold him accountable?
No.
Yeah, do I?
She asks me.
We have a
I
conversation.
mean,
So there's
no, that's a like.
Well, and there's always the conversation of I think I text you every morning and I say, what's our schedule today?
What does it look like?
What does it look like? How many appointments do we have?
I think that's completely
And
fine.
and that's just kind of where we've left it at. And then at the end of the day,
Do you
how
respond-
did the night
Do
go?
you respond well to her holding you accountable?
Not always, no.
So
But it's gotten better.
Yeah.
Because
got
we've
better
been
because of
doing it.
what? Because of the way
Because
she
I just know
the way you changed or she changed?
we both did. We changed
and
because
I-
and there's some days that it still is kind of like, all right, there, like,
Yeah.
this is day, right?
Right.
Nothing's going on. Stop asking me.
Like, worry about yourself. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you know,
There's
but
definitely those days.
then there was like ways of like, you know, you just, and I don't like how you're communicating it. And we have those conversations. And we've had those conversations, and so she's changed that. And then I've also, though, her wanting to know what's going on, and she has the right to know what's going on. So I've because it's been so consistent that I've been able to just, you know, allow it and accept it.
Because you know where it's coming from.
Right.
So
It's come from a good place.
we're big believers in not holding each other accountable, but I think what you're doing is not necessarily holding accountable. So to me, what holding accountable, like, so as coaches to our team, holding them accountable is like, do you want me to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
Right? We don't ever do that to each other. No, we don't want to know, not from you.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Anybody else can tell you a criticism about yourself, but the second it comes from his mouth, I'm
Right?
like, oh.
Oh,
you
really?
just-
Is that what you
You
think?
want to
That's
open
one of
that
those questions.
that door? Let's go.
Right?
I'm ready.
But then
I'll tell you why, though,
we'll
because you've
retaliate with the worst.
No, I'll tell you why. It's because you've been vulnerable to share everything.
Yeah,
And you don't want it to be used in a way that seems
Against
like
you.
it's against you.
yeah. And that bleeds right into one of our questions too: is how do we do that without the other one going on the defense?
So so yeah,
We're guilty of
it's a
that.
great question. So, or just rewind a little bit. So what has worked for us when we stay on top of it is having not an accountability meeting, but have an offensive brainstorming session.
Like that.
So some people might need to have an offensive brainstorming session every night, every morning. I don't know what it is for you guys. We did ours a couple times a week, right? Do ours a couple times a week.
Wednesday and Sunday.
Yeah. Where we are in a safe zone. And it's about the reality of here's where we're at, now let's brainstorm. What have we done? On both fronts, right? Now, if this is where we're at, this is what we've done. Now, what are we gonna do the next couple days, right? And this doesn't have to be just about business, right? This is about everything.
This was about our finances, our family life,
How long do you
our
typically try to
fitness,
hold those?
an hour.
An hour meeting? An hour brainstorm?
Yep.
And you always limit it to like 1 hour?
No, sometimes it's a lot less.
Sometimes it was even less. Like we had to review the finances, where we at, like, or I'd be upset about the spending or what the money was being used on, or anything. But that's the time we talk about it.
But I would encourage you to do offensively, right? Not, where's this, not like, hey, what's up, right? Not like that, right?
Yeah.
It's gotta be like solution oriented, and then all solutions on the table are not the solutions. They're just brainstorming, right? And then you see what's written down and you say, okay, now let's go from here. Also, being with each other to be able to look at something and dissect and being in a safe area where, listen, I'm just letting my mind wander. Whatever it is what it is. Doesn't mean that you judge me anyway, and it doesn't mean I'm judging you. I'm just, from my personal experience, this is kind of what I'm seeing. And you have multiple things there you can kind of sift through and discuss what the best plan of action is for you guys. Sometimes you don't always have to agree on the solution. Sometimes you have to just agree to disagree on the solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because in the end, what's the most important thing to you? It's like you get to come home at night, hold hands, and hug and kiss and love each other, right? So sometimes disagreeing on the solution, we're trying to, like sometimes with me, like I know that, dude, like I always know that I'm right, no matter what.
Not even a joke.
I always know that I'm right. Does that mean that I'm always right? Heck no, most of the time I'm wrong. But something about me and my personality and my certainty, I always know that I'm right, okay? So, since I already always know that I'm right, she's actually really, really patient with that process, right? And
You're gonna have to tell me how you do it.
Just like this.
very, very patient with that process.
I actually always say this: you can be right, or you can be rich, honey. And he's like, and I choose to be right. And I said, I'll be rich then.
I always say I'm both.
He does always say
I
that.
said both, right and rich. So, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is
It's
what's
okay to
what's
be
the
secret.
what's the most important thing is that you don't necessarily agree that it's the right solution. You just agree that it's a solution and we're going to use it and we're going to try it. Because sometimes we get so ego driven about like my way is the right way that it actually creates a worse issue than even what you're trying to solve. Because I got to be right. So I think we've done a pretty good job of allowing each other to communicate, and then she already knows, and I know, and I try to catch myself now too, like a lot. Like I'm such a dominant persuader, right? We have these issues, and she's like, well, how come we never use my idea, right? That's what she says. So what was my response to that? Because it's the wrong idea.
The problem was his response.
No.
We could use your idea if you convinced me of it.
Yeah, I said, why don't you do a better job of convincing me of it, right? I mean, that sounds like a super.
We could use your idea if it was better than mine, but we can't.
But the only reason why that comes about is because I'm like, well, I'm so certain on mine. I want to see some certainty that the other idea is right, right? So, not that it ever is. Most of the time, it is the right one. But I just get so like confident or arrogant. I don't know what you want to call it. So.
I really love that, having offensive brainstorming.
Yeah.
But the whole point of that is what he was talking about, the proactive. So it's about catching things before you're getting upset, and we do it multiple times a week. And so we don't hold each other accountable, but we do ask each other that all the time. What does your schedule look like today? So
I hate it.
It doesn't
Yeah.
like. It's more about like, hey, do you got time for this? This is what I'm looking at. It's not even so much like how many prospects are you gonna get today, but yeah, I guess it would be kind of like holding you accountable when I say that. You hate when I say that?
I hate when I feel like I'm getting sort of like condescending about it. Do you mind if I get some more water? I'm so thirsty.
You know, one thing that Robin and I are really good at is communicating. We probably talk every night for an hour, 2 hours sometimes. We will talk,
Yeah.
but we don't necessarily do things like that.
Yeah.
So
not
I mean,
like that.
there's we're not actually like we're talking in the future, but we're not doing it in the way that you're just
Yeah.
doing. So that's gonna be huge.
So that's
for
a
us.
huge change.
That'd be
that
good.
we need
That'd be
to
cool. Yeah, I'm actually like the worst at like sharing my day. Like when I come home from the day, I try to like, I actually shut it off.
make. Yeah. Well, and him
I don't
too.
tell her about how the day went.
She always wants to know how, the first question
I
is
get,
how it
I
went.
get like the headlines.
I don't even get that.
Like,
I
it's
get
like,
cool.
How was your day? And he's like,
I get
"It
it.
was good.
I get
Yeah,
Did
the,
my appointments."
yeah, I get a
Nice.
45-minute version of her story, and then she's looking for reciprocation. I'm like, you want to watch a movie?
No, not kidding. That's my life.
Yeah,
That's funny.
that's really
I
good.
hope that stuff's helpful.
Yeah.
That's huge. You actually
really
answered our other question with that, so that's great. One thing that I kind of struggle with is, how to be present in the moment. I'm in survival mode in the business, and how do I, when I'm home, how can I give my attention to my family? How can I give my
Yeah.
attention to Robin? So, because we don't have a ton of time together.
Right.
So when we're together,
Needs
obviously, I'm
equality.
gonna
Yeah.
be, same with Olivia. So how have you guys been able to kind of do that, work through that?
So I don't ever shut it down either, right? So I got that same issue. But what Bryce told me to do, he said, dude, you gotta shut it off. And when he was talking about it, he didn't really give me this exact mentorship, but I kind of created it in my own mind. If I maxed out and did what I was supposed to do with the time that time that I had, I wouldn't go there when I have other time that I committed. So just like the gym, right? I mean, Sunday's our workout day. Dude, do you ever feel like you need to work out more after that workout? Me neither.
Don't think about it either.
No, it's done. Like I'm done. What if we treated our businesses that way? What if when we went to work, we actually had that fatigue of the muscle that we feel when we do that workout? We actually have that when we come back from our work night or our work day. Dude, you would shut it off. You'd want to shut it off. Like you'd be able to shut it off. You'd fatigue off. You wouldn't have to flip a switch. You'd burn out the switch, right? And then you'd be able to direct your time, and you'd actually feel better about directing your time because you wouldn't feel guilty, right? So what I feel like is we let the guilt go across, right? So if we don't have a good workout, we think the rest of the time, how can I have a better workout? And we're not present in the work of the business or the family or whatever it is. And so we actually feel guilt. I didn't get a good workout and now I'm not present, right? So that actually is a spiral down. Same thing with the actual business, right? Since I didn't perform the way I know I'm capable of performing and I didn't max out, now I'm carrying around guilt that I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I feel bad, I'm letting my wife down. And then I'm in the moment, I can't even enjoy the actual being in the present because I'm thinking about either how I screwed up at work or how I can get better at work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so the only way that I found that's a solution to that is you just got to go all in with what you've committed to do during that period of time. You'd probably, if you were to go all in with your family and not have that switch on, you'd actually probably get better work time, you know?
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome. That's really
That's
good.
my feeling about it. I don't know if I have dialed in or not, but that's what my heart tells me.
I feel like that's 100% true, but for me in the beginning, I didn't have the discipline. So, and I don't know if this is more affected on women or not, but I feel like it's with everything. I feel like it's exactly what you're talking about because when you're at home, you feel guilty that you didn't do the job you were supposed to do at work, and when you're at work, you feel guilty that I'm not with my family. And so that was always my thing that tore me apart, and the thing that helped me is schedule. Like for me, everything was scheduled. I couldn't feel guilty because it was all scheduled and there was time for everything. So your family time, you need to have scheduled. And that is family time. You can turn off your phone, you're not making phone calls, and you better stick to that schedule. You're not booking appointments over it, it doesn't really matter. That's family time and it's sacred time. That actually gets booked in your calendar before appointments. So for me, I have family time, but then on my son, and you could do this with Olivia, but like I just had time for him. So because, especially as a single parent coming in, that time, they need to know that they come before. And it can't be justified on time because our life is out of balance in the beginning. We got to dedicate a ton of time to the business, but I had to still spend the quality time with him. And then, because all the other things, people don't really, I mean, when I worked my job and I'd come home, I would just be watching TV, right? Or I'd just be doing those things, not really spending quality time. Or it makes me be small and be like, Mommy's tired, let's watch a movie, you know, but not really spending time. But then this business actually helped me to become more effective and more quality time because now I had to be intentional about it and plan something. So my time with him is usually on a Friday when I pick him up. So 1 in the afternoon all the way till 4 or 5 at night. That's just with him. We'll go shooting, we'll go hiking. It's an intentional, planned out event, okay? And so it was always 3 to 4 hours, sometime during even just a month, but I encourage every one of my agents to go do that with each child. Like they need to have that alone time where it's just them and they're building that bond and that they matter more than anything. My phone doesn't go with me, nothing goes with me, this is just that. And so like I don't ever feel guilty because I have business time and I better be effective, what he was just saying, during business time. And then when I'm with my son, he never has to worry that something comes before him. Okay, and so that's what's helped me, but it's the schedule. So I don't ever have to feel guilty that I didn't make my contacts or that I should be at the office or I should be doing an appointment and I'm here. If it was in my planner, I follow my planner, and that's what's gonna build your confidence in everything in life is because you're gonna keep your commitment. And that's actually gonna help you even more. But plan it, and that's what helped me to stay more disciplined.
The other part of it is, for me too, is
Make sure you guys do your day nights.
giving yourself credit, right, for what you do. I think sometimes we're just so harsh. I know for me, I'm so harsh on myself. I'm my own worst critic. And so I don't know if it's patronized or I just beat myself up like all the time over what I'm doing. And if I start giving myself credit for pat myself on the back every once in a while for what I've actually done, it actually allows me to let off and not think as much in times where I should be present someplace else.
Yeah.
But being well-rounded in goals too. You know, I think sometimes we get so dominant focused in one area that we don't set goals in multiple areas, and we can handle more than just one thing. Also, the other thing is just remember that you'll never be in balance. What you're just trying to do is be in the pursuit of balance, right? And if someone said that, and I don't know who said that, but you're never really going to be in balance. It's just the pursuit of balance.
Right. I think it's like penny coin.
Yeah, someone said it. I don't know who.
It sounds like. That's
Someone
great.
smart.
Someone with the experience, right? That's really great.
I feel like that's what
You know, my thing is with that too, though, is not giving yourself like recognizing the small victories because it's almost like it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it pops in my head. Yeah, that was great, but it's not enough.
Yeah, but the
That
way
goes back to what you were just saying out there, though.
Yeah.
You're feeding that back that is never going to be enough, that you're not enough.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Now we're
is-
getting into some deep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's
told
true.
you.
But here's the thing, though, is the part of that is that you've got to realize that it is.
Yeah.
Like, because did you do it before? That little thing?
Maybe.
Did you do it consistently?
Maybe.
Okay, if you did do it consistently and did before, then okay, maybe it's not a pat on the back.
Right.
Maybe you're just doing the status quo of yourself. So I don't necessarily think that you got to pat yourself on the back for doing the status quo of yourself,
Sure.
right? But sometimes you got to pat if you did something one time and then you did it 1 time a week, but the next week you did it 2 times a week. That deserves a pat on the back.
Okay.
That's improvement. That's some sort of consistency, right? You know. So.
But it is about looking back to see where you've come. So too many people don't give themselves credit for where they came. Like I posted this thing on there that was like, it said, if I quit now, I'll go back to where I started. And when I started, I would wish for anything to be where I'm at now. And so it's never forgetting how far we've come and what we've done and how we've improved on our life. Whether it's a thought process, it doesn't have to be the money or tangible result, but how far have I come in my life overcoming things? And like always remembering that, because too many times people come in and we deal with it with agents all the time, and it's never enough. They want more, they want more. That's great. That you want to want more. You want that pursuit. But you gotta give yourself that pat on the back or recognize at least how far you've come. And so we're constantly reminding people where they came from. The fact that you can do a first and you can close business. If you like went back to when you started, could you do that? Right? You have a team. You didn't have a team before.
Well,
you've been able to progress over these things, and it's really helping people to see how far you've come, but then now what's the next step?
Well, let me add this into it. Also, that's the case for sure when there's a depressive state attached to it. Like when you're too hard on yourself and you go the wrong way. I get hard on myself, but it actually spurs me to go the right way, right? Sometimes. We're not talking about like taking that, because I think I'm a growth guy, right?
Yeah.
So that ability to get better, that I'm not doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, that's like the fish in front of me that makes me go, right? The fish, the carrot,
Yeah.
the
I
carrot.
was like, what?
Why was I was
Rabbit,
picturing like a
carrot.
goldfish, like some goldfish when I was a kid.
You were like,
I feel like the goldfish.
No, so what I'm talking about,
That was
is
really
the carrot,
good too.
dangling the carrot in front of me. So if
We all got what you're talking
if my mentality is one of, hey, I'm striving to hit this goal, I'm not there yet, so it's driving me further. You take the carrot away, what do I have to shoot for? But if the carrot's there and I'm striving to get the carrot, I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough. I haven't been doing the right things. I suck.
I
and
don't
quit.
deserve the carrot.
Then the pat in the back then I need a pat in the back. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah. That's really great. You have the next two questions.
And you discredit Robyn patting on your back, huh?
Discredit her from doing it?
No, you discredit it, the credibility of her patting on your back because she's a spouse and she should.
Right.
Do you?
I think so.
I do.
I think that's absolutely.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think, I don't know where I was listening to this too, but it's almost, growing up in sports and everything else, you get so much of this like positive, affirmation towards you that oftentimes you kind of start getting it, you're like, yeah.
Whatever, doesn't mean anything to
This
me.
is, what are you talking about?
You have to say that, yeah.
Yeah.
From almost anybody. It could come from almost anybody, and you're like,
Especially the ones that don't know it.
yeah, and I didn't really recognize that until I listened to that podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
but yeah, then they kind of just get it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, because when people give me compliments, I'm just looking at them like, I don't know if it was the way that I was raised, or if it's because of sports, or it's just that lack of, something in me that's just like, yeah, I don't see what you're trying to tell me.
Deanne's kind of the same way, so I'll give you an example. So what Deanne has found out a habit of doing, do you mind me talking about this?
I don't know what you're about to talk about, so.
So we've had some people over to the house, and they've paid her a compliment
Okay.
on the house.
I know where you're
And
going.
what's your response?
He says I downplay everything.
Downplays it, like it's not a big deal. Like, whatever. Like, it's not that big, or
Yeah.
it's not that nice, or whatever. And like, I was telling her, I was like, dude, like, do you realize, like, how that actually comes off sometimes? Like, someone pays you a compliment, and then you blow off the compliment.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of snotty.
Yeah.
Like, 100% that this is not a woman who's ever snotty, right? For sure. Sometimes it does come off that, right? Like, oh, this is nothing, peasant, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
Just,
you
well,
do
yeah, it's
that.
kind of more like, yeah, you kind of just shrug it off.
You
Yeah.
shrug off anything good.
But you don't
Yeah.
realize that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the ways to
But when
look
you're
at it is-
talking about it, I guess.
Yeah.
So you
Yes,
treat,
that does
so
happen.
doing that to other people, it comes off like that, are you okay with coming off like to yourself like that?
No.
No, of course not. So that's why, another reason why to stop it, to stop.
But that
Stop.
has happened with everything. When we were at SMD Academy and I earned my 6 figures and like.
She was like #1 cash flow at that academy.
And everyone was like, oh my gosh, and I was like, that's nothing. But they
Yeah,
were
not
like,
satisfied, right?
yeah,
It's
they were
never
just,
enough.
they were like, oh my gosh, she makes so much money, and I was like, no. And then Chris is like, you need to like play on that, like, or with my ring, someone's like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's just a ring that our company gives us. And he's like, what the freak? Like, you got to get better at promoting yourself, but promoting what's going on around you. And So it's something I'm still always constantly working at because I'm not wanting to brag or boast or because I don't feel like I haven't achieved what I want to achieve.
Right, but you gotta recognize that it was a step towards the achievement.
I know, so that's the thing I'm always working on, that realizing like it's progress, you know, and it is something great and people would love to be in that situation. And so that's where it goes back to being like, I gotta remind myself I have to be grateful. People would love to be in the situation I'm in. And me coming off is like, it's never good enough. What is that saying to everyone else?
So this goes back to the grateful thing, right? So she's like, I don't know if we had a conversation about it or I just thought about it but I think it came back like, how should you respond to it? Like, dude, you just respond with a thank you. And that's what you should do for yourself. You should be grateful, right? That's why it's so important. Like when I do my gratitude stuff, you guys know the stuff I write down my gratitude stuff, right? It's like, I'm grateful that I'm persistent. I'm grateful that I'm tenacious. I'm grateful that I was willing to sacrifice, right? And in the top 10 someplace. You know, I only write down 3, so I wrote
Am I
these
in there?
through. Yeah. Quite often it's like, I'm grateful for Deanne. I'm grateful for Mason, right? I'm grateful for, God. I'm grateful for these blessings. I'm grateful for my tenacity. I'm grateful for my team. I'm grateful for my persistence. So I'm looking for traits that I have also to write down that I'm grateful for. And sometimes that helps me give myself, I do that in the morning, at night. Just 3 quick ones, really quick. So.
That's really great. Thank you.
So this is the one thing that I struggle with the most is how do I not put my stress on him? So we're working hard in the business and, bills have to be paid, things have to get taken care of. And so how do I channel it better instead of, because every time I tell him, he goes, I know, and then he shuts down. And I feel like I have to over amplify no, this is a big deal, this is something I'm really stressed about, when I know in the back of my mind it's not doing any good. I don't know the best way to work around that. I'm not good at that.
I have an idea, but do you have something?
I'm curious as to hear your idea because I'm like you, and apparently this causes conflict too. So I'm waiting for this advice.
Chris, tell us.
This is a good subject matter to put into the offensive brainstorming
I was
mode.
thinking that too.
And instead of coming it from a line of I'm stressed about it, it's I noticed this. Let's come up with some ideas. This guy thrives big time in offense. He's not like a defensive dude. He's like an offensive guy. That's where I thrive too.
I would say the only thing that's helped me, because I'm a lot like that, and Chris is like, that's not helping when you're like this all the time. So
I'm like, why are you attracting stress into both of our lives right now?
Well, and it's true, and it's like you saying it doesn't fix it. And for my response to that is always, I know, but I don't know what else to do.
And
I feel like we have to talk about it.
I have to just get it out.
When I tell her, I say, don't worry about it. I got it, right? Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And it's just like, that's the switch. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
So
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Don't tell me not to worry about this.
Defensive,
And it's just like,
well, it's the fact that we just
We're
want to
okay.
know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We want to believe it.
Like a certain,
Yeah, we want that.
Oh, you want some
certainty.
proof?
Or just tell me the plan.
Am I not proving it?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That's
so
probably it.
it's
Because it's more
probably
that.
because it's all in my head, right? It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is going to be the process, and then everything's going to be taken care of.
But
Whereas-
instead
That's how I am
of
too.
sharing,
I have
Yeah,
a-
And I
don't
want
share
him
it.
to share the
Yeah,
plan,
yeah.
right? Because I'm like, what's the freaking plan?
Yeah.
How are we gonna how are we gonna tackle this? You're not talking.
yeah.
So
Because it's freaking work to explain all the details of what's going on in here.
Yeah.
But we need that. I need that.
if
I
you
don't
could
know.
just rest us assured by not saying, don't worry about
But
it.
here's the
Yeah.
thing, but it's
All you
like,
hear is worry.
so here's the also thing, and I think that's probably the best answer, because now we can really start thinking about it. Because how I process it in the moment of that is, okay, well, it's a stressful and or anxiety moment, and so I don't want to spend my energy explaining to you how it's going to get done. I'm just got to go do it.
Yeah. Which I actually totally get that. I think the thing that has helped us is that planning meeting because it brings it up before it becomes a problem. These are the things that are due this month. These are the things that are due this week. So we had to divide assets. We needed a certain amount of money for the house, right?
Right.
And so all the money was getting pooled in the business. I was like, I can't function like that. Like, it's not working for me to not know if the bills are gonna get paid, and like, where is the money? It's just sitting over here. We have like 5 different accounts, and the fact that I didn't have any control over it. So I didn't like that, and I know it's my own personal
That's
issue.
me too, though, is I don't have it's not in my
Yeah,
control.
it wasn't, like, I wasn't controlling the situation, so through those brainstorming sessions, how would I feel better about things? And so he's like, what if I made sure there was a certain amount of money in the joint account for you to be able to pay the bills? And I was like, that would help me, right? And he's like, you could be over that, and you could budget that money. And so I was like, okay, so then we started there, but then it didn't work because I was still bad at budgeting. So like, I didn't know what bills were gonna come out. And so now he pays us on a weekly basis. But it was through those meetings of like, trying to figure out what was going to work. Thank you. So now on a weekly basis, he's gotta make sure a certain amount of money is in there. So on these weekly, this is what's gonna come out, this is what we need. And he has a more of a target of like, okay, cause like if that money really wasn't there, he's like, okay, I know what I have to go make, right? Like, I gotta do this because that's in simplest terms of how this person's going to help to feel more solid or more control. And by doing it consistently, I've been able to relax a little bit more knowing that he is gonna take care of it. Versus just that, don't worry about it. Now I feel more confident in the fact that, like, cause it's happened multiple times, I'm like, okay, he's gonna figure out a way. But it's always still a stressful thing, but it is about the approach of how you bring it up. And then I'm really good at now saying, hey, listen, can I just share my feelings with you? This is how I'm feeling, you know, this stresses me out because of this.
And I've had to grow a lot, like
Yeah.
personally, to put myself in a position to even be able to accept that in a way that didn't make that I chose not to go negative with it. You know, I had to grow a lot to allow that type of communication because I'm not that like type, right? Like I'm kind of like, I think I almost picture myself as kind of how you were explaining, like just the fact that it's getting brought up creates more stress.
Right.
Like crap,
He's
I don't want to
totally
deal
like
with it.
that.
Like I don't want to deal with the defense. I just want to go offense.
Right.
Like I don't want to talk about like how to cut back. I want to talk about how to make more money, like things like that. And so just I had to grow a lot to be able to accept that communication from her.
Yeah,
That's big.
that's really good. We only have one more question.
The other thing is, dude, the other part of that too is, you know, tie that back into the whole maxing out your time in the business too, you know, because you get to have it all, right? You get to be able to go to work, be productive, make the money to come home, to build the security for you and your family, to be able to have the quality time with them and still be fit and healthy. You get to have all, you get to have all those things.
That's awesome, guys.
Last question, Spencer.
Well, you actually pretty much answered my question.
Okay.
And when I was asking the 5, you know, the question was, the biggest thing is you know, I've never seen how to mentor the spouse or get the spouse kind of there and actually engage, but you kind of went through.
I'll give you another thing.
And you
like-
make sure you invite them to everything.
Invite them.
I'll give you another thing is,
Yeah, but my also thing is sorry, Chris, but real quick, the one of the things that we kind of were talking about in our role is for Robyn to maybe be that spouse that tries to also connect with the spouses, right? So having that, so hey, I understand and kind of go through that and just that whole process. Because one thing that we don't have is we don't have somebody that she can kind of call to
Yeah.
and saying, hey, you know, it's hard right now. You know, I'm having I'm looking off the edge here, kind of reel me in, type of a thing. Instead of giving that towards me.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I always talk to Deanne about too was, I was like, who's your mentor? Like, do you even have a mentor? Like, who's your mentor? Who you connecting with, right? To
Who's helping you to think bigger and
yeah,
better.
like who's your mentor? Like even the spouse needs a mentor. Everybody needs a mentor. And so I was always, and I don't even know if she has one now. She didn't really talk to me about it, but it's still something. I'm like, dude, who's your mentor? Me? I can't be your mentor.
You're not my mentor.
I know.
You're mean. It's like if he tries to, no joke, we're working out, Deanne, you're doing that wrong. I was like, Psh, who are you?
Why do you think I haven't come and worked out? with you guys. It's not for
I don't know how to work
wanting
out.
to. It's for that exact same thing.
I'm like, don't tell me what to
Don't
do.
tell me what to do.
Like, he always gets stuck in the middle of it. I was like,
I
Spencer,
just-
tell me he's wrong. And then he's like, I'm not your trainer.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see you get hurt. That's the only reason why I point something out.
Whatever. But if the trainer tells me, I'm like, oh, okay. But I do believe that. I do believe that people do need a mentor, and like, there's got to be a way that we're always growing.
And you got to reach out to someone. Like, your mentor is not going to come and say, hey, can I be your mentor? That's not how it works. You got to say,
I'm
hey,
looking for my
listen,
mentor fairy.
you got this quality, this quality, this quality. I'd like to be able to do some
Yeah.
mentoring with you, and you kind of help me, whatever. You
Right.
got to reach out.
And, you know, to be honest, I don't know if this has come across with you, we haven't really talked about it, but when you mentioned that the other night, I was like, yeah, because you always talked about in the business, you know, you're in the business, you should have a mentor. But, you know, if Robin's not so active in the business, it's not like, hey, you should go get a mentor too. Like, that was not even just a small little thing. This makes total sense, but then at the same time, we never even talked about it, never thought about it.
And
Big
mentors,
deal.
missed the boat.
That's
Yeah.
any of your spouse. The question that you had, they can't feel like they're not important in the business. They're just as important as you.
Yeah.
And if whatever you need, they need.
And mentoring isn't about venting. Mentoring is about helping your mind to
Your
think
mentality.
the right way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the other big thing on spousal, like how I connect, because they're not always around, is we hold activities.
Hmm.
And the spouse and the family is there. So like every other month we were holding activities. So it was that every other that it was a family thing. And then the other time, like our incentives were just agent stuff. But it was always about how can we get in front of the families, because the other big thing that does, especially when you have a spouse that's maybe not so supportive, they end up telling their kids things. You have to regulate what goes in those kids' heads
Oh yeah.
all the time. Like my parents would tell my son all the time, your mom just cares about money.
Yeah.
My own flipping parents all the time. And it would make me so upset, and he would come home and tell me, like, why do you just care about money? Why won't you spend time with me? It was the most freaking frustrating thing of the person that you thought you could trust, like, that was just feeding this, like, and they don't even know it's negative. I don't know how you don't know it's negative to tell so much child that. But, like, it also allows us to put in those kids' heads when they're coming out and hanging out, or whether we're at the water slides or the bouncy house or the barbecues or whatever it is, we let those kids know how hard their parents are working for them.
Yeah.
So that they can have the better things. And it's about having someone totally, they don't even know, to recognize, one, your parents are amazing and they're doing amazing things here and we're so proud of them. And like why they're gonna win and how hard they work just for those kids.
Yeah.
And that's our chance to like let the children know, or the spouse, if the spouse doesn't come around, how much we believe in why they're gonna win here, and that they're a part of our whole team, their whole family. That connection is huge. But I'm a big believer in treating the spouse just like I treat the agent. Everything. Because I really do believe it's equal. I don't believe like, oh, this spouse works and this one's in the business. I don't see it as separate. Like, that's their role to provide for the income until this business takes off. But what are you doing to take off the business? Like, come on, what's the goal? And so I get both of them involved, because the other thing that ends up happening, especially if you're only talking to one agent, it's not like they go home and tell their spouse they're not working. You know, like, oh, I didn't work today. But their spouse might think they're working, and maybe the agent isn't working at all.
I tell my spouse when I don't work.
And I want the spouse to be on the same page, because if you have someone in
Probably
here,
knows because I just come home.
yeah, but we had an agent, we were talking with the spouse.
I'm like, oh, Deanne's coming home, I'm gonna get out of here fast.
I don't doubt it.
I'm kidding.
I don't doubt it. But I really believe that, because a lot of times we'll sit down with an agent and their spouse is like, well, they're working all the time. And I'm like, a different job? Like, where are they? Like, I don't know what to do, but they're not working.
Yeah.
And so, like, but I never say it, like, directly to them. I'm like, oh, so that's cool. Like, I actually try to find more information of what that spouse knows, because a lot of times the agent isn't working. The spouse is just, like, because I was going to the spousal meetings and these agents were asking questions, I was like, your freaking spouse is not even in the business. Like, and they're just sitting there being supportive, and like, I was like, and then they come to me and be like, why aren't they winning? I was like, well, they should work. Like, that would be good.
Yeah.
But like, I don't say that to the spouse, but
Right.
I gotta somehow figure out how can I get the spouse and my agent on the same page, and that's why I meet with them together. So that they both kind of know what the schedule entails. They both know what kind of work it would take. You know, when we met with the most recent spouse that we met with, I'm trying not to say names, but it was about helping her to understand what will it take to achieve the goals. She was oblivious as to how much time it would take or what was really needed to build the business. She thought he could do it on a couple days a week, right? That's not gonna work.
Right.
She thought he could be gone I gave him a couple nights a week, like, that's not gonna work. You want this guy to make $250,000 a year and that's the time you gave him? This is what it's gonna take, and it's gonna take this for a couple years. Like, we gotta build this, but me helping relate to her the reality of the situation and not giving her false expectations, so she can't support him. She goes, and then by the end of that conversation, she goes, okay, tell me what I gotta do. I'll get the babysitters. And like, it was more or less helping her to explain when her spouse was too scared to tell her really what it was gonna take, and it's gonna take me more time, or that I'm gonna have to do this. And so it was just more of that open communication, so now that they're both on the same page. That had nothing to do with your question. I don't know how I
love
read
it.
it off
No,
so
it was good.
It
quickly.
was great though.
I was like,
That's gonna be the whole thing right there.
that was not
My
your
questions.
question.
Love it. No, that's great. Brainstorm. I love the brainstorming
So,
session.
yeah.
That's probably
That's
one of
probably,
my biggest takeaways right now.
yeah. I
There's a
was
lot
gonna
of
say
them.
That's probably, there's a lot
Stands
for me
out.
too, but that one is gonna have the biggest impact.
That's something you can implement fast.
Yeah.
It's good.
And that gives us, I mean, that too, I mean, yeah, we talk every night. Like, he comes home and we're just talking. And then we're like, it's 1 a.m, we should probably go to bed. But we can make those conversations more productive, I think.
Absolutely.
Like, give them more direction.
I don't,
versus
one of the
just
things one of the
Yeah.
things we had to do when we did that brainstorming session was we had to actually declare that it was a meeting.
Mhm.
And with a designated meeting spot. So it felt
Okay.
like, because I don't know about you, but when I'm at my house, I can get off task pretty easily and just be
Okay.
nonchalant and casual,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Absolutely.
But
I mean,
then
we
you
used
didn't
to-
cover anything and
we
nothing
did-
got done.
We
It
did
didn't
at,
change.
we did it at the office for a while, but then we realized we didn't need to do that, but we just picked a spot that, you know, was really, not while we're laying around in bed,
No.
not taking notes on what each other were talking about.
Yeah.
No, we can't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
appreciate today. Thank you. I probably went longer than you guys probably wanted.
It's all good, man. We appreciate you guys
This was
coming over.
awesome.
It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
This
We
was
love
really
hanging out
Really good
with
stuff.
couples that want to win, so
Yeah, this was really
so
great.
glad you guys came over.